week one of the fantasy football season, and here's the top 36 running backs I'm ranking this week. So obviously the top 15, 20 guys on this list are most likely starting in every format, obviously, but this is just the order I have them in. So the first guy, Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers. So this week here versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, Christian McCaffrey, he's going to be a big part of the offense. He's going to catch the ball a lot out of the backfield as well. And the offense is going to run through him. So right now, he was obviously the first back off the board in many of the drafts. And he's number one this week. Number two, Austin Ekeler of the Los Angeles Chargers. So Austin Ekeler, a dual threat as well. Great matchup versus Miami this week, where their defense is banged up going into the season. And I definitely see this as a high-scoring shootout between both these teams. And Ekeler has a big game this week, I believe. Number three, Saquon Barkley of the New York Giants. So Saquon Barkley might be a little bit high on my list to some people, but he's got a good track record versus the Dallas Cowboys. And right here, Giant Stadium, MetLife Stadium, opening night, Sunday Night Football. And like I said, Barkley, another running back that I was big on coming into the season, can catch the ball out of the backfield. He has the explosive breakaway speed, and now with more weapons added to the offense, with Waller, Paris Campbell, and Drafton Hyatt, I think he could open things up here for Barkley a little more. And like I said, with a good track record versus Dallas, I got him in number three this week. Number four, Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans. So Derrick Henry, a lot of people think this could be the year he falls apart, but obviously we really haven't seen signs of him falling apart this season. And this week it's an indoor ball game, which always is a fast track at New Orleans. I know New Orleans has some pretty good defensive linemen, and they were decent against the run. But Derrick Henry, I still think in this one gets off to a good start and has a big week this week. Number five, Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons. So Bijan Robinson, a lot of hype about this rookie coming into the season. Obviously, a top 10 pick in the NFL draft this season, where he could do a little bit of everything. He could play all three downs. They officially just moved him up to number one on the depth chart, even though obviously he was a first-round pick for a reason in fantasy drafts. It's not a surprise. And last season, Algier rushing for 1,000 yards, and this week here, good matchup versus the Carolina Panthers. I really don't have much on the defensive end of things. So right now, indoors in Atlanta, he's got a good matchup, and I think he shows up with a big ball game this week. Number six, Tony Pollard of the Dallas Cowboys. So Tony Pollard, he'll be the man now this season for the Dallas Cowboys with no Ezekiel Elliott after he left town and went to the New England Patriots. And I think in this ball game, Tony Pollard will get 15, 20 touches total, catch a few passes out of the backfield. And on workload and obviously the athleticism and the breakaway speed here, Pollard could put up big numbers this week. Number seven, Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns. So gone and not signing with any team here. I think Nick Chubb, this could be the season where we see a little bit more out of Nick Chubb, getting big games and big yards. And this week here versus a Cincinnati Bengal team where he's had great success versus the division rival. So in this ball game, I think he has a good one here, is Nick Chubb. He's going to get the big workload, no doubt about it. And he's a starter each and every week. Number eight, Josh Jacobs, Las Vegas Raiders. We know Jacobs held out early in the season, but last season, one of the best running backs in all fantasy football. And right now, I think he's going to get off to a little bit of a slow start, but with on work volume alone, and I know it's not the greatest of matchups versus Denver, but on volume and his talent, I got him at 8 this week. Number 9, Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions. So Gibbs, I'm pretty big on him coming into the season. I got him in a few leagues this year, and he's going to fit this Lion offense like a glove, and they're writing up a lot of different plays and schemes for him coming into the year. Besides St. Brown as their receiver, they don't really got much on the outside. So Gibbs, they're going to line him up, I believe, as a receiver. And this game script here versus the Kansas City Chiefs is going to play perfect, I believe, for a Gibbs type of game. I know David Montgomery is there, but Gibbs, I think, with obviously carries and catching the ball out of the backfield, is going to have a good ball game in this one. Number 10, J.K. Dobbins, Baltimore Ravens. They got a good matchup this week versus the Houston Texans. I know Dobbins, he might be bumped up a little higher than other people are, but I'm going off the matchup, and I'm going off the type of offense he's in here, with obviously Lamar Jackson. They got Flowers, Odell Beckham, Mark Andrews, so a solid offense over there in Baltimore. Dobbins, we saw towards the end of the last season when he was healthy, putting up big ball games. And I think this week here, week one, especially contract season, it is for Dobbins. He has a nice one this week. Number 11, Ramondre Stevenson of the New England Patriots. So Ramondre Stevenson, he's a solid running back. I know Ezekiel Elliott is there, but I don't think it's going to play much of a factor here with Ezekiel Elliott being over there, besides maybe some short yardage work and goal line, but this guy could catch the ball out of the backfield. He's one of their main men on offense, and I think in this game, Bill Belichick, he's going to try to keep the Eagles off the field. We're going to see a lot of running in this one early and a lot of small dump-off passes for Stevenson. And like I said, he had over 60 catches last season as well, so right now with volume and his upside, we're catching the football in PPR leagues especially. I got him at 11, number 12, Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals. So Joe Mixon, there's no competition over there for him at running back once again. He's got a pretty decent matchup at the Cleveland Browns this week. Good track record versus the Browns as well. And with his workload and obviously Joe Burrow not 100%, I think they'll lean on the run a little bit more. And I got him at 12-13, Damian Pierce of the Texans. So right now, tough matchup versus the Baltimore Ravens. But with a young quarterback like C.J. Stroud starting, I think they're going to run the football a lot. And Pierce, he's a 3-down back, so the workload's going to be there. The only thing with him, I just want to see more catching out of the backfield from Pierce. And I think this season, we definitely could get that from Pierce. So I got him at 13 this week, 14, Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not a big Etienne guy coming into the season, especially with Tank Bigsby drafted over there by the Jacksonville Jaguars. But Etienne, he definitely had some big games last season. This week, he's got a great matchup on paper, obviously, versus a pretty weak Indianapolis Colt defense here. And I think this week he goes out there, gets the job done. And this could be a ball game where it gets out of hand early and the Jacksonville Jaguars just run the football more the second half of the game. 15, Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Jones, I think, has a good game in this one. Jordan Love, he's the starter now for this Packer team. And with a young quarterback, you're going to lean on the run a lot. And we know Aaron Jones can catch the ball out of the backfield as well. And he's got a good history versus the Chicago Bears. I know this ball game's in Soldier Field, but I think Aaron Jones in this one, he's going to have a good ball game, and it wouldn't be surprising to me if he could even finish within the top 10 this week in fantasy points at the position. Number 16, Alexander Mattison of the Minnesota Vikings. So Mattison, he's the man now over there in Minnesota after they cut loose Dalvin Cook, where he went to the New York Jets in the offseason. And this week, this could be a ball game that gets out of hand early versus the Tampa Bay Bucks coming to town. And Alexander Mattison, he knows it's his time now. And in the few ball games we've seen him start throughout his career where Cook missed some time, he was a pretty solid starter. So right now, I have him as a solid number 2 running back for fantasy owners. This week, number 17, Kenneth Walker of the Seattle Seahawks. So Kenneth Walker, we know he has home run ability. We know he has breakaway speed. And this ball game, I think they're going to lean on the run a lot in this one, especially if it gets out of hand early for this Seattle team versus the Los Angeles Rams coming to town, where Cooper Kupp most likely out in this ball game. So Kenneth Walker, I could see a nice beginning of the season here for him. What a good matchup and the way the game script might go. I got him at 17-18. Jamal Williams of the New Orleans Saints. So Kamara out the first 3 games of the year. Jamal Williams, we know he was the touchdown machine last season with the Detroit Lions. And in this one, he's got a pretty good matchup versus the Tennessee Titans, where I think Williams will find the end zone in this one and have about 60-80 total yards in this ball game. 19, James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals. So James Conner, we know he's a talented running back, can do everything. He's a 3-down back. But the thing with this ball game, it could get out of hand as well, because this offense with Joshua Dobbs most likely starting is going to be a problem, I believe, for this Arizona Cardinal team. So right now, James Conner, solid number 2 running back, I believe, this week. Pretty decent matchup versus Washington, but I'm a little weary, obviously, because if it gets out of hand, they're going to have to throw the football a lot. 20, Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Rachaad White, he's going to be the man now over there in Tampa Bay as the running back 1 this season. And we know he can catch 50, 60 passes out of the backfield. And even if they're down early and often in this one, is Tampa Bay to Minnesota, White could do everything out of the backfield. Then he's a 3-down back. So this week, I think, on volume and catching the football, we'll put him in the number 2 running back conversation. 21, Javonte Williams of the Denver Broncos. I know Javonte Williams isn't 100% coming off the ACL tear, but I think he has a decent ball game. It's a good matchup versus the Vegas Raiders that really don't have much on that defensive line. And this season here, I know this Denver Bronco team, they're going to want to run the football a little bit better this year and put Russell Wilson in better situations with Sean Payton schemes and stuff. We just know how his offenses run, where he knows how to put running backs in the right position. And this week with a good matchup versus Vegas, I got him at 21-22. Najee Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's going to be a tough day here for Najee Harris versus San Francisco 49ers. I'm not expecting much out of him, but I got 22 this week for Harris because he's going to get volume, he's going to get workload, and I know Jalen Warren's over there, but still Harris, I believe he's going to get 15, 20 touches in this ball game and possibly put up a decent ball game, but I don't think he's going to do much. But with volume and where the people draft him, third round, you're going to start him this week probably. Raheem Mostert, number 23, versus the Los Angeles Chargers. So right now with Jeff Wilson out the first 4 weeks of the season, Mostert's going to be the starter. And this could be a shootout type of ball game. I know Devin A-Chain is over there as well, but I think we're going to see him in a few weeks start to get going in this backfield. So right now, Raheem Mostert, he's going to start for this team. He's going to get a decent amount of workload. And on volume, that's why you're going to start him most likely, but I think he's not going to have a great game either. And I got him at 23, 24, DeAndre Swift of the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets the most touches in this backfield here for this Philadelphia Eagle team. Obviously, you got Rashard Penny, Kenneth Gainwell, Swift with his receiving prowess and his big game-breaking ability to break one loose. I think he could have a decent ball game. I know New England is a pretty solid defense, but right here, DeAndre Swift, if you have him as a flex or a number 2 running back, I think it's serviceable this week, depending what happens with the other backs. Like I mentioned, 25, James Cook of the Buffalo Bills. So James Cook, I don't like the matchup at all versus the New York Jets, but I think he's still going to get volume, obviously. He's going to get a workload, and that alone, I got him here, 25. But in terms of having a great ball game, I don't really see it versus that New York Jet front line. But I think James Cook this week at 25, 26, Miles Sanders of the Carolina Panthers. So Sanders, another running back I'm not big on this season. This Panther team, they're going to be trailing in a lot of ball games. This week, this game definitely could be closer between them and division rival, the Atlanta Falcons, but I don't see much out of Miles Sanders this season. And this week here, he's not another running back I really like as well, but I got him at 26, 27, David Montgomery of the Detroit Lions. So this is a ball game where I think they're going to be trailing early and often is Detroit and trying to keep up points on the board with the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's why I got Jahmyr Gibbs up there in the top 10 in the rankings. And Montgomery, I think Gibbs is the more talented running back, obviously. They drafted him number 12 overall for a reason. And Montgomery, he's just going to be the change of pace type of back and guy who's going to get, obviously, in between the tackles type of work. But I'm not seeing a big ball game out of him this week. 28, Khalil Herbert of the Chicago Bears. So another running back by committee type of situation it could be over there in Chicago. I know the matchup is a middle-of-the-pack matchup versus a decent Green Bay defensive line. But you got Roscoe Johnson and Donta Foreman over there for this Chicago Bear team. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out over there at the running back position. But I still think Herbert will lead the backfield in touches. But he's not really a running back I'm interested in this week. But with workload and obviously potentially being the starter this week, I got him at 28, 29, Brian Robinson of the Washington Commanders. I think this is a Robinson type of game where they get off to a good lead early is Washington, and they just pound the rock in between the tackles, and that's what Robinson does, obviously, better than Antonio Gibson, who's more the receiving back and third down back. So anyway, Robinson this week, it wouldn't be surprising to me if we see 30, 40 total yards out of him when he finds the end zone. But I don't know if the workload's going to be a huge one, but I got him at 29 this week. Number 30, Isaiah Pacheco of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Pacheco last season, second half of the year, he really had a nice second half of this Chief team, scoring touchdowns, having 80, 90-yard ball games on the ground. But this week here, coming off an injury, week 1 versus a pretty solid Detroit D-line, this is a ball game where I think we're going to see a shootout and just a lot of passing in it. And I don't think Pacheco's 100% as well. So this week, I'm going to play it safe with him and have him at 30. Number 31, Dalvin Cook of the New York Jets. So Dalvin Cook, he's been banged up coming into training camp with the shoulder, and they did sign him to a nice contract for a one-year deal. So it's going to be a 50-50 split this week, but it wouldn't be surprising if Cook gets a little bit more work in this ball game. But anyway, with a tough matchup versus Buffalo, with a 50-50 split, and the numbers declining over the last few seasons, I'm not really in on Dalvin Cook this year. If he went to Miami, it was a little bit of a different story because he would have been the full-time running back over there. But him and Hall are going to split, and with the tough matchup, I'm pretty much staying away. So I got him at 31, 32. They mentioned Breece Hall here. So Breece Hall coming off the ACL injury. He's not 100% as well as Breece Hall. and he's going to be splitting time here with the tough matchup. I got him at 32, 33. Cam Akers of the Los Angeles Rams. It's going to be a tough season here for Los Angeles once again. Offensive line isn't all that good. Cooper Kupp most likely out here in week 1 of this ball game. And I just don't see Cam Akers doing much in this game, where they could get down early and often and they're going to have to throw a whole lot. And that's where Kyren Williams comes in to play here, where I think he's the third down back and a better receiving back anyway than Akers. So this week here, I know Akers is going to get majority of the touches, but I got him at 33, 34. Antonio Gibson, Washington Commanders. Antonio Gibson, we know he's a good receiving back out of the backfield for this Commander team, but I think this ball game is going to get out of hand, and Brian Robinson's going to be the running back here that gets rewarded the most for fantasy points. And this one, Gibson, if you want to use him as a flex option, that's fine, but I'm not really seeing a big ball game out of him. So I got him at 34, 35. Jerick McKinnon of the Kansas City Chiefs. So we know he's the receiving back. Last season, he had a good year, Jerick McKinnon. And Isaiah Pacheco, I know he's not 100% coming into this ball game, but still, it's just tough to predict what Jerick McKinnon really could do out of the receiving game and the way the game script's going to go, even though I think this is going to be a shootout here on Thursday Night Football to open the season between the Lions and the Chiefs. But right now, like I said, hard to predict McKinnon's workload. It's definitely a pretty decent matchup on paper. And like I said, if Travis Kelce doesn't play in this ball game, it might bump up McKinnon a little bit. And the 36th and final running back I'm ranking in this one is Samaje Perine of the Denver Broncos. So Perine, he got a decent deal for a backup running back. And Javonte Williams, we know he's coming off the ACL. And Perine last season, in a few games he filled in for Joe Mixon. A few good games in that time is Perine. So I like the way he could run the football between the tackles. Pretty decent receiver out of the backfield. And I definitely think he's going to get some workload in this ball game. And it's a decent matchup versus Vegas, but I still can't think he's going to be much better than any of these guys. So I got him at 36. That's the top 36 wide receivers I'm ranking here for week 1 of the fantasy football season.